DASCOIN, człowiek z 25-letnim doświadczeniem w biznesie, moi drodzy, jako przedsiębiorca i wizjoner. Z tych 25 lat blisko 10 lat w branży technologii cyfrowych. Drodzy Państwo, wielkie brawa, Michael Matias. Każe na siebie czekać, ale zaraz go znajdziemy. Jeszcze odrobinę cierpliwości. To jest jeden z prelegentów tej drugiej części. Mam sygnału, że już za moment będzie z nami, a więc...
Promise, like make messages. Be here in Poland once again. It's this in here, and I want to spend some time sharing what we're doing within this moment that you've been hearing about of innovation between the financial world and the world of technology. It's a major moment of innovation that's possible right now. And we've created something we call DAS. It stands for Digital Asset System. And we think that we have a really exciting solution to bring to the world right now. And we believe it's a better way of storing and exchanging value. And so what I want to do today is give you an idea of the why that's behind this whole thing, and also share some of the factors, some of the elements in our DAS system that make it different from a lot of things that are out there. And then finally, I want to give everyone a sense of, where our solution is going in the future, where DAS will be in the future. So we'll start with the why, and there's three types of whys that I want to talk about. If you think back, or if you think about a child at 2 years old, this is that's the first time we really started asking why. And it usually came with when you were being denied something that you really wanted, you would ask why. Why not? It's really, can't I have candy? Why can't I have ice cream? It's really associated with, I would say it's kind of the body sense of, the things that we want, on our body level. Think about when you're 8 years old. And that, I feel like, is a time when the whys become more about, it's your thoughts. It's coming from the mind. And you're asking, why is the sky blue? Why is this the way it is? I think it's a time when we're highly ideal, where our idealism is there. And so you'll notice that children have a very good sense of injustice or justice. And I think and it's an important time to be asking why. And then the final why is really one of those whys that I think we start to get we first get exposed to when we're maybe as teenagers typically, where it's a why that comes at a deep level. It's almost like the level of the soul. And it's the why, usually it's something bad has happened, and it's a why did that happen to me? Why did someone break my heart? Why did someone die? Why? It's the looking up to the sky why, and it's a very serious why. And I think that they all play a role, and I think if any of you have ever seen Simon Sinek's video about the importance of knowing why something's being done, I think there's a lot of companies don't know their why, and I think that the why, and that's why I want to just share where I think what happened in my life that kind of has me search the why are things this way, and that's really at the heart of this. And I feel that it's important that I share with you some of my own history and tell you kind of the whys that run me. And I was always a very inquisitive child, and I do think I was very idealistic. And I had a moment, and we all run into different adversity in life, and I think it shapes us and changes us. And in my particular case, when I was 8 years old, my father passed away. And I think that it gave me the big, all capital why at a time when I was still asking all the why questions. And when something traumatic happens to you at that age, sometimes there's a lot of energy that stays in that point in time. And so I think that there's a part of me that stayed in that moment and was asking very deep why questions repeatedly. And so I had this drive always for why things worked the way they worked. And on a very high level, to me, things that I would observe seemed off balance. It seemed like the world was not, it's okay, so we have those times where we ask why do some people have a lot of money and why do some people not have a lot of money? And that injustice resonated with me, and I wanted to understand that from a very early age. And I think it's kept with me, and it is one of those things that we basically give up on the why questions. We ask them, and then our parents answer them, and eventually we exhaust our parents, and then we stop and we just accept. And we all accept what the world is like. And I just want to bring everyone's attention to the idea that when you stop asking why, you run into a lot of problems. You start accepting what comes into your life. And so I do believe at the heart of what we're doing with DAS, this comes from a place where I in particular and others that are with me in this have asked, why can't this be better about the financial system, about really the world economy? And when you stop asking why, things can happen like this. I'm gonna play a video, And this is a video that resonates with this idea of what we do, what happens to us if we stop asking why. We start becoming automatons. We start accepting what Big Brother has in mind for us. And it takes the asking of why, and it takes the rebellion of why to wake up. And so let me just play a brief video that was used to launch an Apple product. It's not the product that's important, but it's just the feeling that's important. Another dramatic pause.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information purification methods. We have created for the first time in all history a garden of pure ideology where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests of a contributory force. Unification of laws is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will rally them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
It's an amazing piece of, it's a commercial that ran one time in front of a Super Bowl in 1984. It was produced by Ridley Scott, he went on to become a very, very famous and successful director. And it underscores this idea that if we stay with the old system that we've all become very used to. It's been in place for about 300 years, a little bit more, of this central bank monetary system, which has served us very well, but which has elements that could be called extractive. There's a great book, Why Nations Fail, that was very influential on me, and it puts forth a thesis that nations fail today because their extractive economic institutions do not create the incentives needed for people to save, invest, and innovate. Extractive political institutions support these economic institutions by cementing the power of those who benefit from the extraction. Now that's a way of saying that that the way life has evolved in the last 300 years is we've created these centralized institutions, and they've been very effective, and it's led to a very modern society. But in the process, we've created institutions that tend to consolidate power, and they basically extract the power for the benefit of those that are in power, of a ruling elite. This is a model that, again, served us well, but we're in a paradigm shift right now. This is the very beginning of it, and it's a paradigm shift that is distributing power, and that's a good thing if it's done in the right way, because distributing that power is something that's much more stable, and this is talked about. There's a lot of great history that is in this book that talks about how that dynamic is working, where concentrated power ends up becoming less stable because it is so concentrated, and distributed power, which is, I think, what is exactly what the blockchain is about. It's about transparency and distribution of power beyond just a ruling elite, beyond just a few people making all the benefits and extracting all the benefits from a society. And so I believe that this is a pathway, and we now are in a situation where we can create systems that serve not just a ruling group that's in power, but that can be benefiting all the participants in a system. And there's a great example of this that occurred in Switzerland, and it's been very influential on me. And so everybody in here knows that Bitcoin, or at least a lot of you know that Bitcoin was created in 2009. And right around 2009, 2010, I was deeply involved in looking at complementary currencies. So these are currencies that sit side by side with the central monetary. So cryptocurrencies are complementary to our other currencies. And as I was learning about those, an example came into my experience of the Wir franc. It's called WIR franc, Wir franc. It happened in Switzerland. And this was an idea of it was right at the beginning of the 1930s. The Depression was going on. Banks started to become very tight with credit. And so some business people in Switzerland, not having access to bank credit, but yet having inventory and different elements to doing business with one another, they decided to create a trading circle, bond themselves in with their real estate, with a lien on their real estate to keep them true to the trading circle, and basically begin trading on credit that they've extended to themselves. So they took the bank out of the equation, and they started trading amongst themselves, keeping track of it in a fairly rudimentary way, but keeping track of it and keeping each other honest through this lien on their real estate. And a lot of people believe, a lot of economists believe, that that is part of the Swiss success story, that coming out of a very tight credit time of the Depression, this Swiss system of mutual credit, it's called, really thrived. But it has never, and it's happened in a number of different geographical locations around the world, but it has never happened on a global basis. And to me, that became really compelling, because I asked why. I was asking why has this not been done? Because it seemed to be very beneficial, and it took banks out of the equation. Because, as we've learned over history, whenever there is an opaqueness to a power structure, there is abuse. It just happens. It happens again and again. And one of the great elements of the blockchain and blockchain technology is transparency. And we just tend to behave better as human beings when there's transparency. And you can see that with the internet, right? When people misbehave generally when they're anonymous, and it gets all this trolling behavior. It's not our best selves that are at work. And so the thought is that we need to have a system in place, or the starting point of a system is very much an authenticated system. So that's one of the first. I got ahead of myself. Prior to, as I started studying that and became very captivated by there being a better system possible, the elements that drove me on this were, how do we make, so we see great promise with Bitcoin, but how do we make sure that this scales? Because that's definitely been one of the issues with Bitcoin, that questionable if it could scale. There's a lot of governments and businesses that maybe aren't using it, because isn't that used for the Silk Road and for trading of things among anonymous people? So that was influential. Overall stability. How do we create a stable, something that's very solid and ultimately sustainable? How do we use this blockchain technology to create something that's going to be equally sustainable as the system that's been in place for 300 years? So we're moving into technology-based money systems, and those are going to be in place for hundreds of years. So just where Bank of England, I think, was formed in 1694, it was the first central bank, and it's lasted till now, and it's now on its way out. The whole central bank system is in trouble right now. And there's another system coming into view, and this is what we're going to have for hundreds of years. And the question is, what is that system going to look like? And, what are the elements that are needed? So I wanted to just give a bit of an overview of just 5 elements of DAS and what makes DAS different. So as I started to talk about, one of the first things that we start with is an authenticated network. Open systems that are really what have begun the blockchain revolution are wonderful, but they are also prone to having anonymous actors within them. And that's a good thing for certain use cases. But again, when we're looking for something sustainable, having a fully authenticated network makes more sense. It made more sense to me. I just thought this is a way that we could comply with regulations, because there's always the government needs to be in the equation. You can't try to go around the government. We need new systems that are going to allow there to be, for it to really scale, you're going to have the governments involved. And so to do that, you need to do something that is built into the DAS system, which is a KYC process, and that stands for Know Your Customer. It's a banking standard, and it's built into our system. We use that this way we know who's trading on this. It's a deterrent for people that are doing things that aren't good, like financing terrorism or laundering money. It's not good for them to be on an authentic network. There's plenty of anonymous networks that are available to them. And again, we feel that to scale, we've got to comply with all the regulations that are now starting to come. And so we like the model for that reason. We feature a different kind of blockchain. It's the same principle it's the same protocol, but it's organized in a different way. It's, instead of it being fully open, or on one extreme, or fully centralized on another extreme, our blockchain is a consortium blockchain, and so that means that there's a number of companies that share the master nodes, that basically these master nodes are licensed, and these different companies have an interest in running them in a way that is going to create value for the whole system. So similar to that Veer-Frank mutual credit system, there is a vested interest in them operating together in a way it's transparent, it's blockchain protocol, and information can be shared on this blockchain exactly like an open system. So fully public information can be shared, and yet you can also have a situation where privacy can also be honored. So you have privacy without anonymity. So you know who's operating on this network, but you can still be private with the who is operating, but all the other information about a transaction that's on our blockchain is very transparent. So what it really ultimately does is provide a more efficient way of running a blockchain, yet still preserving the ideals of the blockchain, of this mutual distributed ledger. And there's a guy that many will know if there was great familiarity, very impressive, by the way, on the early part of this day with the knowledge of this group. So a lot of you may know the name Vitalik Buterin, and he is a well-known creator or founder of Ethereum. And he is one who has spoken on this idea that there's one way, one true way to be blockchaining is completely wrong-headed. And this is something that you'll see in the community, within the crypto community. They want, I just feel it's a limiting thing when you have a whole new technology, and this technology is really turning on the world. The world is wanting to explore blockchain, and yet there's a lot of people that think there's really only one true way to do a blockchain, and I say that it's a limiting thought, because we have to explore the potential for having more efficient forms of blockchain that are operating in ways that are equally preserving the ideals. There's trade-offs in all the models. Like there's no one way of blockchaining that is perfect and then one that's not perfect. There all are trade-offs, like everything in life. And so we just take our blockchain is very efficient, and what's possible because of that are 6-second blocks. Those are confirmed transactions within 6 seconds. It's highly scalable for transactions. And up here you can just get a sense of that Bitcoin at its current current rate is about 3 transactions per second. Ethereum about 20 transactions per second. PayPal 115. You get into Visa and they're capable of doing 56,000, but they're doing probably about 2,000. And this very efficient blockchain that is DASCOIN's blockchain is capable of 100,000 plus transactions per second. And we built this blockchain. We have a development team that now has 30 people in Belgrade, Serbia, that built off of a code base that one of the top minds in the industry created. And that code base was the code that BitShares and Steam and EOS sits on. The creator was Daniel Larimer, and we used that and built further on it. And but that base is known to be very, very fast and could really go. There's depending on what the equipment is on there, you can go well beyond these levels. So we like that as a backdrop for our system. And so it's very important that we have a very efficient blockchain, and we can do other things with those efficiencies that I'll get into. Now, it's not just a blockchain, and that's what I think, in my estimation, a lot of the, particularly when you hear about some of these ICOs, there's a lot of efforts that are going into just single-minded ideas that really don't have anything else going with them. And so our idea was to create an entire ecosystem of digital value and have all these elements like the digital wallet integrated into this system. And we believe there's a lot of value that can be created by that integration. And so we're very much about an ecosystem. And we do believe that others in the space aren't fully seeing the possibilities of value creation that are there for ecosystems. Now we also have and feel it's very important to have a decentralized wallet. And it's not the purest of pure decentralized, meaning that it's downloaded onto a computer. Right now it's part of a system, but the access to this system and the movement of assets within this, our system, our digital wallet system, is completely dependent on having a device. It's a USB type device. I have one here. Looks like a USB. It has a screen on it, and we call this a validator. And it's a required element on many. There's other cryptocurrencies that can use that kind of a hardware device, and that's a nice-to-have element. We thought it made sense to protect all of our currency users, and so we require that you have this device. And it's only with that device that you're able to move, or you can access and see, it's kind of in a read-only format, your wallet without this device. But you cannot move or trade, sell, buy without this device. And so it's a really important factor. And rather than, within a lot of the cryptocurrency community, it's a do-it-yourself situation. You got to be an expert to find out how to use one of these hardware devices, and then you have to go through all the steps to try to get your existing wallet integrated into this. We want to take you by the hand and bring you to this place where you have complete control over your digital assets. And that's not an easy thing to do, because a lot of people don't even want the responsibility of what happens in this decentralized age. But we think that it's really worthwhile that everybody gets decentralized access, and that you learn how to operate this kind of thing. It's done on 24 seed words. Those words we don't have. Those words you create essentially on the device, and you have them. And if you were to lose the device that I showed you, you could take any other device like it and program your words in and get access. That holds your private key. And so in the age of cryptocurrency, everything's dependent on this private key. And this device is the simplest way that we are aware of to manage your private key. And so we add that element of service. And so we're a really big believer in not that this isn't just technology, it's technology and people working together. I see a lot that Satoshi Nakamoto, who created Bitcoin, that person or persons, was interested in creating a trustless system. It was on the aftermath of the 2008 crisis, and he was like, we keep trusting these central systems. Can we design a system that requires no trust? And I believe that if we were robots, that would be an excellent solution, but we're not. And we've relied on trust, and trust is really important. And so I do think if you can take the people out of the equation, you don't need trust. But if anything is ever working with people, that you're going to have some way of trust. And I think that technology can enhance the trust. And that's what blockchain technology is about. But we are adding a level of personal involvement. I think of it as full service, and I think of it related to our ecosystem. So we provide a full service element to the ecosystem that when we get into running blockchains for businesses or governments, they will need assistance. That when we get into smart contracts and running independent smart contracts for different companies and different individuals, there is not a perfect code that necessarily has been ever created. There's always potential for code not having glitches. So we want to have a mediated type of smart contract in a very positive way. It's not at all centralized. It's just the the option of a mediation, arbitration to smart contracts. It's a very normal thing in the realm of regular contracts, and really what smart contracts are is just the technology taking over for much of what lawyers do today. And it's an efficiency. There's tremendous efficiencies that are available through this technology applied to the realm of contracts. But the fifth and final element that we bring is we decided to use a system of incentivized marketing. And the idea for that, a lot of people will ask, why that? And there's a lot of people that feel that this kind of a marketing is not legitimate. And there has been abuse of this kind of marketing in the past. And yet we are very firmly supportive of this way of spreading the word and rewarding people. It really comes down to that. So, I would like to bring everyone's attention to the fact that a lot of people here are members of Facebook. And Facebook has built a huge network, and it's close to 2 billion people, I believe. And everybody on Facebook is creating their own content and sharing it with their friends. And most everyone on Facebook heard about it from one of their friends. And yet all the value that's being created is happening on the backs of everyone's privacy, everyone's content, everyone's marketing efforts. And yet the only people getting any value from this network is a central company called Facebook Inc. And they and the executives and the shareholders of that company extract all the value to them personally. And there's nothing, to me, that's the way it's been working for a long time. It's been central organizations extracting. It's the colonial model, it's the imperial model. It's been working a lot. Is it the best way to orient? And are there better ways of doing this? I think there are. Why does no one in Facebook get a check every couple of weeks? Because, why does all that money go to Mark Zuckerberg and his friends? And so, we believe that it's all about networks. Networks is where value is going. This shift is happening from commodities into networks. And what we're finding with cryptocurrency is people don't know yet how to very accurately value networks. It's very new, and we're still coming into this, but it's all about networks. It's about what you can do on the network, who's on the network, how fast the network is, how much capacity is on the network. That's where value is today. And this is why Facebook is worth more than ExxonMobil. You have just connection servers to people, and it's worth way more than, just huge tankards full of oil and, all the riggings and all the ships going everywhere with oil. All that commodity is worth less than the connection between all the people. And so our view has always been, wouldn't it be a good idea to reward people as you're growing this network, seeing how networks are very important to us and are important to the future of really everything, a future of value certainly. We wanted to create a way for people to benefit, not just everyone benefits the same. No, they benefit commensurate with their impact on the growth. So the more someone is responsible for growing the network, the more that they would benefit from the value that's created. And so, we just really believe that that makes a lot of sense. So, in summary, there's 5 different factors: authenticated network, the consortium blockchain, the blockchain ecosystem, the decentralized wallet, and the incentivized marketing system. These are just 5 elements. There's many things in this space that we are doing a little different than other people because we have not stopped asking why. And I think it's in that why and the ability to follow that, knowing that there's going to be a lot of people that don't understand what we're doing. And we have to endure that. And we put on events like this, and this was, Net Leaders is a part of our ecosystem. And this event, the whole purpose of it is to extend to the community education about the space. And we've done similar education with the professional community in London. We just did on October 4th a forum for auditors, for accountants, because right now permission blockchains, which is what effectively we use, a permission blockchain, there's no auditing standard in the world right now. And so we funded this in London to do, we are moving the accounting industry to adopt a standard, to create a standard. We had, the Big Four was at that, as well as many other accounting firms. And they were at that trying to figure out, well, how do we account? They don't even have it down how they account for Bitcoin. And we're needing them to account for, we want to know how to audit a permission blockchain. The open blockchain doesn't need it. It's fully transparent. But there's a lot of drawbacks to that as well. So again, there's trade-offs. And we just feel this balanced place is a place where there's a lot of value creation that's possible. And so we tend to always end up in the middle of these trade-offs. We look for that hybrid solution. So that runs through a lot of what we do. Now, just to give a brief sense of where it is that we're going, in our particular case, we've had two major milestones that we have delivered on that are just very significant to us. One was the launch of our DASCOIN blockchain. That happened in March 31st of this year. And then just fairly recently, on September 30th, we launched a blockchain-based exchange that is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is not, there's no central control over it. But the only difference is it's not public in that only people with these validators who are licensed in our authenticated network, they need to use this to trade on that particular blockchain-based exchange. Now, we ultimately, this is all a stage. It's like taking a company public. You start off with some seed investors, then you build up to, a little bit wider of a circle, and then you ultimately go public. In the world of cryptocurrency, and we're taking a track where we've started off within our authenticated network. Now we're going to be adding public exchanges to our authenticated network. So essentially, they're going to be the ones that are KYC'd. We know that exchange. They have relationships with their people that they've had to KYC. So we're kind of using the transitive property there. And we're going to start to add that public exchange element to our ecosystem, starting by our goal, and we've hit the two right on time, is March 31st of next year. We want to have our coin trading on a public exchange, the first public exchange, and then we want to add many more public exchanges onto, as part of this wider trading circle. We also expect to have, we have a very unique way of creating utility and liquidity in our ecosystem that we've called DASPAY. And it's a very exciting way where automatically using a credit card, essentially, or it's a MasterCard or Visa, you're using the rails of MasterCard and Visa, but instead of you transacting in a fiat currency for that, you are basically going to be selling your DAS coins in order to facilitate that transaction. And it happens nearly instantaneously. And we see it as a great way that gets us past that chicken and the egg dilemma, that ultimately, we will have merchants directly taking DASCOIN, but initially someone, a merchant, it's this classic chicken and the egg problem. The merchant's like, well, how many people do you have on there? And if you don't have a lot of people, the merchant's going to be like, well, come back once you have a lot of people. And then the users are going to be like, well, how many merchants do you have on? And they're going to say, well, come back to me when you have more merchants. So there's this huge chicken and the egg dilemma that affects many network businesses. So anything that's a network always has that dilemma. And on the other side, if you have a network that gets past that sticking point, it has these tremendous, what they call network effects, where it just starts to build and build and build. And that's why you have networks like Facebook that, geez, there could be so many social networks in this world, but there's really only one main one because of network effects. There's so many people on Facebook that, as far as the social network's concerned, why go anywhere else? And so it's because of that we feel that this model is really important, because we do believe that in time, whoever is offering the service, that whoever cracks this equation is going to have tremendous longevity. And it because of the network effects. So the key right now is figuring out what is that perfect solution. But we believe that people play a big role in that. And that's why we are really looking to have a more full service type of offering. We want to leverage people in the equation. We want to reward people that are expanding our network. It's all about networks. So it's just an important element to our DNA that I want to convey to everyone. And really along the lines of the why, this quote comes to mind, and it's from Robert F. Kennedy, and he said, "There are those that look at things the way they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." And I believe that you can't stop it just at the dreaming. And so I think the why is where you start on the solution path. And then you got to start to ask, you got to put together a plan, and then you got to start asking why not, and you got to start moving on your plan. And that's been the philosophy of where, what's behind what DAS has been thus far and where we are right now. And so I just wanted to share that with everybody. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time. Thank you. I have one. See, I didn't get on the stage timely, and now I can't get off of it timely. I want to, the next speaker is someone very special to the DAS team, the DAS ecosystem. She is someone who has now come on board to, so part of our governance model has a board on it. It has very limited powers, but it is very important because it oversees and maintains the balance of our ecosystem, particularly related to DASCOIN. So it plays a vital role. And we have currently 6 individuals that are part of this. They're listed up there. And we recently, and I am just thrilled to announce that we recently have named a wonderful Polish woman as a member of our board. And she's going to be playing an increasingly vital role and very visible role in this market, but also in places all over the world. We are a global enterprise. That ecosystem spreads out throughout the world. We're in over 140 countries. So This woman is someone, the people that know her are so bowled over by her competence, by her energy, by her enthusiasm, by her intelligence. She is truly, I believe, a prime example of what makes this country that we're in right now so special. I know that the Polish women are really the incredible success element of this country. No offense to the guys, but I just think you are all, the sons of amazing, amazing women and the daughters of amazing women. And here is one of the prime Polish women. Please welcome Anna Hejka.
Hello. I was told to speak in English because we're a global company and we want the world to see how wonderful the Warsaw Conference is. I have a question before I go into anything else. Have you ever worked together with a visionary? Raise your hands, please. Good. I just wish the whole room raised your hands because you just had the chance to listen to him. I have worked and known Michael Milken. He has been a revolutionary on Wall Street, and he has changed the financial markets, allowing smaller companies to get financing in ways which were totally impossible before. That was the foundation that we keep building on. So I know for sure that Michael is also a visionary. He has all the elements, and the difference between him and Michael Milken may be because he's more aware of the regulations, the status quo, and he's smart enough wanting to work with it instead of working against it. How many of you are from Warsaw? How many of you are from the rest of Poland? How many of you are from Europe? And anybody from outside of Europe? Good. You're lucky guys. So let's go. Dzień dobry Warszawo. Dzień dobry Polsko. Hello world. Hello, the new world. In Tokyo, I already told you there are 125 countries in the DASCOIN ecosystem. Do you know that today we have 145 and the number is growing? So congratulations to you. This is all your work. So we already know you are absolutely amazing. If you want to know who I am a little bit more, there's some statistics or information that may be useful. But the most important thing is that I have worked with these two gentlemen. One of them is John Gutfreund, with whom I was passing many times on the trading floor of Salomon Brothers, which was the most powerful investment bank in the world at that time. And Walter Shipley was a CEO of a bank which now is called JP Morgan Chase. And notice, how different are they? Yeah, one is a lady, the other one is a black man. No. At that time, the world was very, very similar. Wherever you looked, the rules, the procedures, the chances were given to a very, very small percentage of people in the world. And you know what? You guys are changing that. But it's not an easy fight. Rafa has talked about how our brain is created. There is another very interesting piece of information. I don't know if you know it, but there are several elements of your brain which have been created at a different time of our evolution, and they're not connected. So the reason that we promise ourselves at New Year's Eve to do something and then we don't deliver even 3 days later is totally obvious. At some point of time, one part of your brain governs, at some other the other one, at some other still another one. So it's no wonder that even as individuals, we're not consistent. And as a society, it's very difficult. But in spite of that, in spite of the fact that the most basic instincts in a human being are either fear or aggression, it's the flight or fight reaction that we have. In spite of the fact that like every single living creature on this planet, we always strive to save energy and therefore use habits rather than innovation. Humanity has moved forward. And the most amazing thing is that given that we're smart enough to build on the foundations of previous generations, innovation is happening quicker and quicker. So 1,000 years ago, we built cities, city-states. Then we had the first industrial revolution, and a lot of people were very unhappy and they were destroying machines, thinking they were their enemies, and not understanding the progress is actually good. Then there was electricity, massive trade, and then computers. But very few people in the world know that there were women working at these computers. Everybody was saying that if you see pictures with the first computers with the ladies there, they were put there to make the picture look better. That's not true. And now the most momentous moment. I don't know if you realize it, but we are in the middle of the fourth revolution. And you guys, as I said in Tokyo, are the revolutionaries. You make this happen. And the thing that made it possible was obviously the revolution of internet, which gave us the chance to connect to everything. We can copy whatever you want. Knowledge is available at any point of time, wherever we are. But still, if we want to wire money, if we want to get justice, if we want to play music, we have to go through intermediaries. Intermediaries that use their power to take advantage of us. When I worked for a commercial bank in the US, it was totally normal that if you sent a check and the check hit the bank had 3 days to send your money to the person you were sending the money to. And they were using that money for free. They were not paying your interest. They had the right to do it. It was illegal. But they were stealing. But the system made it legal. And then came the year 2008. You probably all remember. Here in Poland, it was relatively easy. But my friends in the US, they were heartbroken. Their system of values has collapsed. They stopped believing in anything around them. It was amazing to see how much they suffered. And what happened? We are a very ingenious species. So Satoshi Nakamoto has wrote his manifesto, and the rest is history. And you're part of that history. Now blockchain is giving us an ever-growing power. It's giving us distributed network, it's giving us public access. It's not allowing the system to be corrupted. It's majority-driven, it's encrypted. I don't know if you realize it, but this is the most important revolution of humanity. Because until now, there were few white men who governed the world. They were chosen. And nobody else could get access to power. Nobody else could get access to money. In the US, for example, if you wanted to invest in alternative assets, the system made it so that only 1% of people were able to do it, so-called accredited investors. Nobody else could, unless you were going through intermediaries that were charging you exorbitant fees. So was this a fair world? No, it wasn't. And again, now we are changing it. We now have digital passports. We have smart contracts. We do not need a lawyer. We do not need other people. We can just sign the contract between ourselves, and we know it's going to be there to be fulfilled. We can wire money. UJO also allows people to send music, which is not going to be copied for free, which is going to respect the property of the creator of the music. We have actually started the Internet of Value, which allows the creators to be fairly paid for what they do and control the fate of their products and services. So blockchain has become the unifying, the enabling technology of trust. You already heard it, so we'll go through it very quickly. If you send the proper information within the network confirms everything is fine. If you try to cheat, the majority of people, because people are honest in their majority, will deny it. And the cheaters are not going to be able to win. So given that we will not experience 100 years of progress this century, but it will be more like 20,000 years at today's rate, and that rate is picking up every single minute. We need to realize that either we join this train, and that's a speed train already, or we're going to lose out. We're going to be extinct. We're going to stop mattering to the world. We're going to become the gun fodder for the smart ones, for the creative ones, for people like you. Because you're the ones who are going to govern the world, because you're smart enough to know that this is the way the world is going, and you're taking advantage of it. So what is the most common use of blockchain? I'm not going to tell you anything new. I'm the last speaker, so you already know it. Cryptocurrencies. What do they give us? They give us privacy. No bank controls what we're doing. It gives us transparency, a distributed network, and, as in the case of Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies, anonymity. So we have them: Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, Ethereum, Litecoin. You know them all. But it hasn't been that easy. I don't know if you remember that, but Mt. Gox was a Bitcoin exchange which controlled 70% of the world volume. And then suddenly, they lost 850,000 Bitcoins. And they went bankrupt, and then they liquidated the company. There was another one, Silk Road, because the thieves and the bad people of the world have decided to use the anonymity given to them by Bitcoin, and they started selling drugs on Silk Road. Was it good? Is it good? No, because drugs are very bad and they lead to deaths of many, many people. But when you start something new, is it easy? When you were learning to walk, have you fallen down ever? Many times, haven't you? So whenever we start something totally new, it takes an effort. We make mistakes. That's how we learn. The left is Sergeant Garcia. This was the image of west part of the United States for me when I was a kid. Right now, Jeff Bezos. Seattle is actually the same agglomeration as the rest of Silicon Valley. This is a megalopolis. All these cities on the West Coast are interconnected. And Jeff Bezos, I met at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and he looked like Michael. At that time, he was telling a story how he started Amazon. He said he was wrapping up books on the floor, and one of his first employees said, "I have an innovation." And Jeff said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Let's take a table. You won't have to bend. You won't have to do it on your knees." And he says, and the productivity skyrocketed. We were wrapping many more books to be sent than before. That's how it starts. The beginnings always look very, very humble. But if you have a visionary at the helm of the company, you end up owning shares of Apple. Which one of you knows how much is Apple worth today? Is it $100 billion? Raise your hands if you think that that's how much it is. Is it $500 billion? Is it $900 billion? Good. It's around 850 right now. This is the most valuable company in the world. And I know that you've seen Steve Jobs. And if you look at the beginning, he had to learn how to speak on the stage. He was not easy to work with. Michael is a doll. So, like I said, the beginnings are always humble, but you have to be willing to be misunderstood if you're going to innovate. There's no other way, because if you are understood, that means you're not doing anything new. You're just following the status quo. So are we dreaming about the forbidden Bitcoin? Bitcoin being the symbol of all the cryptocurrencies? Are we dreaming about becoming wealthy, healthy, happy? Of course we are. And some people claim that only fiat currencies make sense and cryptocurrencies are all wrong. But I'm going to prove to you in a second that the world has already changed their mind. Just look at this chart. And you have seen it. But few people, even looking at the chart, realize the momentous change that has actually happened just over the last year. Look, the price has increased 10 times. Most of you know it already. But if you look at the volume, which means acceptance, which means number of people, institutions that actually trade Bitcoin, you will see that that has increased 35 times in just 1 year. If that continues with that kind of a growth next year and the year after, with Bitcoin and with other currencies, soon enough you won't even remember paper money. You'll think it's a funny thing. Like now we think about gold. Who would carry a piece of gold with them? It's so inconvenient. You're going to say the same thing about paper money in no time. You won't even remember that at some point in time somebody used such a useless thing. But the question is, given that progress is accelerating so incredibly quickly, that before we get adjusted to the new thing, there's one even better around the corner. What is going to be the next thing? Privacy? We need it. It has to stay. Transparency? You won't have trust without it. Distributed network? Of course. But there's one thing which is different, which is going to make the system really healthy, and Michael has talked about it. That is the lack of anonymity, the know your client. It's critical that we, in our network, make sure that everybody who is a participant is an honest person, is someone who's not going to use the network for something bad. We need to know that. So, just to make it very, very clear, the only thing that is constant is change. It's Heraclitus. Thousands of years ago, he's already noticed that. And I would like to add that it's an exponentially accelerating change and an aspiration for individual freedom and fulfillment. Because technology has allowed us to fulfill our aspirations, not to be cogs in somebody else's machines, but actually shape our future the way we want to, the way that will make us happy and will make people around us happy as well. Here is a man that didn't look like a visionary, but he was incredibly smart, and he single-handedly won a battle with a major empire. So please remember his words, because it's critical that you use that wisdom to build your prosperity and the prosperity of the companies you work with. Your beliefs become your thoughts. So if you believe in something which is great, you will have great thoughts. And then your thoughts will become your words, because that's how people express them. Then your words, if you really believe in them, will become your actions. And if you do it often enough, your actions will become your habit. And habits create values, our system of values, which is the most important thing if you want to do something which is going to matter in your life. And your values will become your destiny. So remember that. That's very, very important. Another thing I said when I was in Tokyo, also a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and that is something for you to remember whenever they attack you and they say that DASCOIN makes no sense and that DASCOIN is just a scam or whatever. First, they ignore you. Then they laugh at you. Then they fight you. So we're already at the third stage, most probably, and then you win. Because the best method to predict the future is to create it, which is what you guys are doing here. And one last thought, very, very important. You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. So if you have to fight with people who say horrible things about what you do, ignore them. Just go forward, because our actions will prove them wrong. We don't need to waste time. And now I would like you to see another advertising of Apple, because I think that what they've been doing was an incredibly effective way of getting in touch with people. Rafał told you how important emotions are. And that's what Steve Jobs has done. He was playing on emotions, and that's why the company has become so incredibly important in the world. And maybe it's not a coincidence that the movie that Michael just showed you, in a way, depicted Poland. I think they even thought about it when they were creating it, because it was around the time when we toppled communism in Poland and in the Soviet bloc, which was a force which seemed to be immutable. This lady had Polish colors, red at the bottom, white on the top. Just think about it. I believe that Steve Jobs wanted to tell us something, even if it was subliminal. So let's look what else he was saying.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs into square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
This is an honor to you because you are these people. Thank you.
Anna Hejka, drodzy Państwo. Dziękujemy bardzo. Szanowni Państwo, teraz mam dla Was prelegentkę, która specjalizuje się